This is your morning brief for Friday, April 5th. We got a couple of new reports out on Paychex, and this goes along with our payments theme. Have a look at that one. We got the new data in, looks good. And Richelieu Hardware. Richelieu is a good Canadian company, but did not have its best quarter, so we'll give you our ideas on how to play that going forward. Constellation Brands was up 6.54% after releasing earnings. We talked about this yesterday, and we were kind of all in after the press release. Well, we were in before. We thought the earnings was good. There was kind of a muted reaction at first, not much at all in the pre-market, and didn't open up all that strong. But by the end of the day, it was up 6.54%. on a pretty average tape to even below average tape. So it was a good move. I think it's warranted. I'd still be in. I'd be buying more if I didn't have a very big position. They did post $1.84 versus $1.72 expectations. And they're selling their low-end brands to Ernest and Julio Gallo, which I think is a good move. And lastly, the CEO was incredibly bullish on the Canopy Growth stake that they have. They said in Canada alone, they think Canopy Growth can do $1 billion. It's virtually not doing any cash flow positive right now. So we'll see. Pretium Resources released a favorable 43-101 technical report, lifting shares 8.8% yesterday. So anyone who's not in materials or doesn't know what the 43-101 technical report. It is a little bit dry, but they're required in Canada anyways to do this 43-101 where independent engineers go out to the site, they do samples, they survey everything, and they do a report on what they think is in the ground, and they give you reports on proven and probable and all sorts of different categories. And that was released yesterday. And investors loved it because it was up the shares were up 8.8%. They said the net present value of the Brucejack mine is $2.6 billion. So the company itself is not even trading at $2.6 billion, and they have another mine as well. So it just looks like there's value there. That just because the engineers say it's worth $2.6 billion doesn't mean investors feel the same way. I will say that it is producing an 8% return on invested capital, which for a gold company is actually towards the high end. So a lot of these gold companies actually have very low return on invested capital. And there's a huge lag in the time when you start a mine by the time it's producing gold. So it always seems to just have this lag. It's about 7 years it takes to get a gold mine up and running and cash flow positive. So they're already at 8% and with a new favorable engineering report, the 43-101. Okay, Yangarra shares. We talked about this earlier this week, and we said the case is building for a bullish case is building. It's turning more and more positive. Traded 4% higher yesterday, so I think that seems to be playing out. It's a little early from our call, but actually we've liked Yangarra for a little while. Futures are up, supposedly on the U.S.-China trade negotiations. But I think that's just noise and not news, but it was in a lot of headlines. I think, especially in the media, they love to connect, if the futures are up, well, what's the reason? And they'll jump to some international headline. And, when I looked at read about what the trade negotiations, what was going on, it was pretty nothing. Just said things are moving along. That's, okay, well, we already knew that. So I don't think that's any real news. I'm glad it's not souring, but I don't think there was any connection between the futures. It's just, futures are up. People are feeling good. Colorado Avalanche clinched the last, I cannot say my C's today. Colorado Avalanche clinched the last playoff spot in the Western Conference. They had a 3-2 overtime win over Winnipeg and a comeback win. They were down 2-0 and pulled it out, clinched their playoff spot. I can't wait for the playoffs to start, both in the NBA and NHL. It's one of my favorite time of years. We still have Montreal and Columbus tied for the last spot in the East, but Columbus does have a game in hand, so you got to give them the upper hand there, and we'll see how that finishes out. That's your morning brief for April 5th. Let's go find some gems.